Good evening. The rand has continued to strengthen against the US dollar ahead of the new cabinet being announced by President Cyril Ramaphosa. The local currency was trading at 17 rand 91 cents against the dollar in late afternoon trade, 0.38% stronger on the day. The JSE index was also slightly up 0.14% higher on Friday as investors maintained a wait-and-see stance as the nation awaits the announcement of the new cabinet under the government of national unity.
The currency is now one of the top performing in the world year to date, and that's good news for an emerging market currency. But going into the elections, currency was about 6% weaker on the year. It's now 3% stronger against the dollar year to date. So as I say, one of the top performing ones, but most of that move happening in the last week or so. So it's been quite a week. Government bonds a lot stronger, currency a lot stronger, equities, property a star performer too over the last couple of weeks. So everything looking good from an asset market perspective here in South Africa.
And for more on this, we're now joined by economic analyst Owen Nkomo, and he joins us now via our video link. Owen, thank you so much for your time this evening here in SABC News. I mean, just looking at that clip that we just played, one would ask, what do you make of the rand's performance, especially since the announcement of the GNU?
Yes, Mbali, it's been very strong. I mean, this rand, and it's actually bucking the trend against all the other emerging markets currencies, which are under quite a lot of pressure for various reasons. And I think there is no other reason but the fact that there's a big positive, perception of the latest developments in the country, where there's a government of national unity, which includes a whole bunch of parties that were not included previously. And the consensus amongst investors is that decisions that will be made now might likely be made, with more scrutiny, and implementation of policies and things like that is going to be prioritized, because it's not just going to be the ANC making decisions on its own, but there's more consultation. And I think that the playing field has been leveled, given the inclusion of the other parties when it comes to decision making in Parliament. But whether or not this is going to be sustainable, I'm not sure, given how this coalition sort of scenario has panned out here in Gauteng.
And one would say that, I mean, you speak about this GNU and the fact that now it comprises of not just the ANC, but a whole bunch of other political parties. And, when it comes to the stability for the rand's performance, what do you make of it? Do you think that it has the potential to stabilize? Because we are now seeing so many different parties coming together to, form this GNU.
Look, I think from where I stand, the currency is actually, the rand is one of the most tradable currencies in the world if you're looking at the emerging markets. So as long as this coalition scenario, this GNU that has been presented to the world, makes the right decisions in terms of policy, in terms of implementation, in terms of being consistent in the messaging around, protecting the country's economy, protecting the currency, fighting inflation so that the man in the street is going to benefit, making sure that we deal with unemployment and other economic challenges that we're dealing with. I do believe that the currency will actually strengthen even further to the 17s. But there's one big conditionality to that, whether or not these parties can agree on the majority of the tough decisions that need to be made. And I'm telling you, Mbali, we will discuss the currency quite extensively on your show going into the next few years, and also depending on how long this GNU can sustain. Because if the guys argue, at every turn, I think it will become unsustainable, and then the rand will just lose its gains.
And some political analysts are even talking about the fact that, somewhere down the line, we can expect some political parties to move away from, this GNU, especially when you look at what has transpired this week when it comes to public spats from, different quarters of these political parties. What does that mean then for the Rand? Should we see ourselves going back to a situation where some begin to pull away from the GNU?
No, look, it's simple. If I guess it's going to depend on who's pulling out. If it's a DA, that it's obviously a big deal because they've got bigger numbers. And in the perceptions, obviously, it seems that the world markets have a big belief in the fact that the DA is going to bring positive fortunes to the country's economy. But that leaves to be seen. But if it's a smaller party with a smaller percentage, contribution into the GNU numbers, I do believe that, it's going to be goodbye, thanks for coming to the party. But I do think that if it's one of the bigger ones, then there's going to start to be uncertainty. And the Rand is definitely going to be in for a lot of volatility, I do believe. Hopefully, these parties can get together and work together and put South Africa's problems first instead of putting their own party agendas first. But I think if you look at the DA and the ANC and how different their views are on life in general, on BE, on the NHI, and a whole lot of other things, even our international relations, it's going to be very interesting how the guys are going to be able to keep it together and make decisions in a quick manner that will benefit the country. But definitely the Rand is going to be very volatile. If the market starts to lose faith in the GNU, the currency will fall. But hopefully these guys can work together, because I think we cannot afford to continue with an inflationary environment.
And we've been told that we should expect the announcement of a new cabinet soon by President Cyril Ramaphosa. If you're a foreign investor and you're investing in South Africa, what cabinet appointments would you be looking out for, especially when it's dealing with the state of the economy?
Look, there's obviously been the discussion this week around Obabu Kotongwana being appointed back to the finance ministry, and I think that we've been blessed with a lot of finance ministers that have been positively received by investment markets. But I think that the president will make that decision, and it's going to be most likely an inclusive selection of the people that will run the various departments in government. And I'm hoping that it's going to choose people on merit, which is what he actually did the last time when he was appointing ministers into his cabinet rather, because if you look at the CVs of the people that got appointed in the last reshuffle, those people came from those sectors where they had been working, and they were plugged into the sectors that the president needed to fill the seats. So I'm hoping that he will choose people that are competent. I'm hoping that he's going to choose people that will put the country first, and that understand that there are very urgent decisions to be made to turn the growth trajectory of the country around. So I do hope that the right parliament makes it, or rather cabinet makes it's going to be appointed. As has been said in the past, these ministers serve at the president's prerogative. So it is up to President Ramaphosa, the chosen one, to choose a very strong cabinet or a bunch of ministers to run the departments.
And something that you touched on a bit earlier on is the issues around the NHI and some of the policies that the ANC has, been wanting to bring to the fore, especially for this seventh administration. How do you think the markets then will react to such policies, especially those that also deal with the state of our economy, particularly the NHI?
I think that the biggest challenge, like I've said, is how we are going to reconcile the differences of opinions between the two leading parties in the GNU, which is the ANC and the DA. Talk about BE, DA wants to cancel BE outright. NHI, the DA believes is a big mistake and it should not be done. And the ANC is on the opposite end of the scales on both matters. And those are very important, policies in the country that will change the fortunes of of many people, particularly talking about the NHI. And the BE policies have changed and made sure that people like us have had an opportunity to work in places where we were not going to be able to work. But the DA is adamant that they don't want, BE in place. So if there starts to be a very big, a big wedge between the members of this GNU around all these policies, I think we go back to uncertainty, and the markets start to sell off the rands, and they start to sell off the South African markets as well. But then again, I'd like us to really be objective, because there's so much geopolitical issues going on at the moment. And I think our internal problems will probably be ignored, possibly. There'll be knee-jerk reactions here and there, but there's bigger problems in the world than we have. But this is uncharted territory where the ANC has to share power with other parties. So we'll have to see how the decisions made in the country at the GNU level are going to be received by the markets.
Owen, thank you so much for your time this evening and for your analysis. That's Owen Nkomo. He is an economic analyst, just talking there about, of course, that where most South Africans are anticipating that announcement that is expected to take place very soon by President Cyril Ramaphosa, and basically how the markets will be reacting to that.